Students, first of all, I welcome class 12 CBSE students, and this is our first lesson, and the name of the first lesson is the last lesson. So we shall start with the last lesson. But students, before I give you the general outline of this lesson, today I will give you the general outline of this lesson, and later on in the next classes I will go into details. Okay, so I start with the outline of the lesson. Actually, before we start anything, it is very relevant here that if I give you an excerpt of Lord Macaulay's speech in the British Parliament on 2nd February 1835, Lord Macaulay is credited to have introduced new system of education in India. It was English system of education, and the purpose, he spells out his purpose. He makes it clear what his purpose was in the British Parliament before he introduced Macaulay's system of education in India. Let us see. And this has relevance to this lesson. Okay. I have travelled across the length and breadth of India, and I have not seen one person who is a beggar, who is a thief. Such wealth I have seen in this country, such high moral values, people of such caliber, that I do not think we would ever conquer this country unless we break the very backbone of this nation, which is her spiritual and cultural heritage, and therefore I propose that we replace her old and ancient education system, her culture, for if the Indians think that all that is foreign and English is good and greater than their own, they will lose their self-esteem, their native culture, and they will become what we want them, a truly dominated nation. What is the crux of this speech? The excerpt of his speech that he made on 2nd February 1835 in the British Parliament. That if you want to enslave the country, you need to replace its culture, its spiritual heritage, its art, culture, tradition, and then the country becomes a slave country. British thought that this would work in India, but it worked only partially, because India had a rich cultural heritage, India's spiritual heritage. India had gone far. Ancient India is known for its great spiritual work, our scriptures, our Vedas, our Puranas, our holy books, and our science, our arts, our geometry, our astrology, astronomy, in all fields. India was the best country in the world. So British wanted to destroy this heritage, and they knew their job would be much easier. Macaulay succeeded, but only to some extent. Still we have Sanskrit, still we have ancient languages, still we have Vedas, we have everything. And British, mark, there are parts of the world where British ruled. They could impose English. English is their official language. I don't want to mention the names of the countries. There the official language is English and the culture is completely British. Why? Because the native country did not have anything rich to challenge the British dominance, and British could easily impose language. So you can impose language where there is no language as such, or there is no rich language as such. In this lesson, the last lesson, France was under Prussian occupation. A part of France like Alsace and Lorraine, they were the small provinces of France, small areas of France. They were under Prussian dominance. Prussia was a country in the 19th century which was made up of present Germany and Austria, mostly German population. And they conquered a part of France, they occupied a part of France, and they wanted to impose German on that part of France. But here is a teacher, Mr. Hamel. He is giving the last lesson, and during the last lesson he made his people realize, students and the people of that locality realize that what they are going to lose, because next day the German will be the medium of instruction, German will be the official language of that area. That's why there is a line in the story which says, when a people are enslaved, as long as they hold fast to their language, it is as if they had the key to their prison. As long as a country has a language, that country can't be enslaved. That country can't be dominated or conquered by another country. You don't conquer a country through arms, through your physical power, through weapons of mass destruction. You conquer a country by destroying its culture, its language. As long as a country has its language alive, that country can't be subjugated. Mr. Hamel pointed this out, that as long as a country has language, they have a key to the prison. Means sooner or later that country will be free. India became free because India kept its past alive. Our leaders, our philosophers, our learned people, the great sons and daughters of India, they kept our culture alive, our tradition alive, our language, art, literature alive. So India held on to its language and culture and tradition, and English could not be imposed on India. I give an example of India to prove the point that similarly German language can't be imposed on France, of that part of France. Still it was a forceful imposition of German on that area of France over which the Prussian had control. But Mr. Hamel says, as long as we love our language, French was the best language, most clear and logical language. As long as we have this language, our country will not remain a slave country long. So that's why French was his student. He says that can they make our pigeons sing even? Pigeons were making noise over the roof, and says that can they make our pigeons sing in German? No, because it comes from our soul, and as long as we hold on to it, our country can't be slave. Mr. Hamel is giving last lesson, and even the elderly people of the village have gathered, and it was so quiet and so calm, it looked like Sunday. There was no din and bustle in the school. French, a boy was surprised because they were so attentive, and on that day everybody learned the lesson so well. Every word of Mr. Hamel was grasped. They took avid interest in what he was teaching, and finally he wrote, "Viva la France, long live France." He wrote, and then he expressed his regret that when we were not losing our language, we took it for granted. Now tomorrow German language will be imposed on us. Now we are loving our language. That's why we should love our language, we should follow our language, we should learn our language every day, not at the point of time when we are losing it. It is a marvelous lesson, and the author has brought out the situations in the classroom very well. On that day Mr. Hamel put on his best dress and he taught the students, and he was never angry. He taught so lovingly, and everybody was in tears because it was the last day they were going to learn French, because next day German will be imposed on them. But as long as, according to Mr. Hamel, they held on to their language, foreign language can't be imposed on them. I have given you just brief outline of the lesson. More lessons are coming on this chapter. Actually, it is just the beginning. I will teach you in detail. I have just given you the outline of this lesson, the last lesson. Have a wonderful day. May God bless you all.